Hey guys, this is Jay Corbett of Team Sanctum. We're back at it again with my homie Michael Van Sickles here, and you are playing Crystrons. Is that right, my dude?
Yes, sir.
Man, that's good, man. How long have you been playing these?
In person, since they came out, I've been playing them pretty much since they were announced online, playtesting and stuff, because I'm a real big fan of synchros, and this archetype just kind of resonated with me.
Alright, that's cool, man. Let's get into this deck profile. Let's show the folks out there what they're all about. Okay,
I want to kind of preface this deck profile. I'm not going to go super in-depth with any of the effects of the Crystrons. I'm going to briefly touch on the tuners, but for the non-tuners, I'm not going to go too deep into them because I don't want this to be a 20-minute deck profile for you guys. So to start off, I'm running 2 copies of Quan. If you don't know what he does, the Cliff Notes version of him is that during your opponent's main phase or battle phase, you can special summon a non-tuner from hand and then immediately synchro summon for machine-type synchro monster. And all of the tuners of the archetype kind of work this way. So that's Quan. And then next up is Citri. Citri, like Quan, special summons a non-tuner, but she does it from grave, and then the materials are banished. And then finally, we have Crystron Rion, which I only run 1 of. I really only run 1 of him because he's level 3, so he doesn't work as well with the other Crystrons for my synchro summons. And he works by summoning one from the banish and then puts the materials back into the deck. And so when I need him, I usually just search him out or special summon him from deck using the non-tuners. So then for the non-tuners, starting at the lowest level, which is level 2, I run 1 turtle. His level makes him inconvenient with Quan, so he only really works with Citri and Rion, and his graveyard effect isn't as useful as doesn't come up as common as I would like it to, so he's only a 1 of for me, but that's personal preference. Next up, I run 3 Thisfern. It's the main one because it's the searcher for, or at least searches for the monsters, and then Smyger, I run it 2 because we only have the 2 different trap cards. And so, and the one impact lets me summon him back from the banish zone, so he kind of just loops himself in that regard, so I don't feel like anything more than 2 is really necessary. And so then for the level 4, I run 2 copies of Rosenix. This is because I run a small rank 4 engine to make 1 rank 4 in the extra deck. But other than that, he's just for levels, nothing really special about him. And then for my personal favorite of the non-tuners for Crystrons is Sulfefnir, because him plus any other Crystron card, you can pitch the Crystron card, special summon him, and then he just really turns into any Crystron in your deck. That, and because he's a level 5 machine, he lets me go into Infinity, which is one of my favorite plays to use him for. And so that's all for the Crystron main deck monsters. Next up, we have the tech cards, or tech monsters, I guess. So that would be my 2 Veilers for monster effect negation. Really like this in the DDD matchup. Pretty nice in the Yang Zing matchup if you're seeing them. And that's kind of really it for why I run it. Next is Max C. It's Max C. I don't really think I need to explain why I run it. So then, last of the monsters for the main deck is 10 Goldfish. So this is the other part of the little rank 4 engine I mentioned earlier. And the rank 4 I run is Heavy Armor Train Iron Wolf. I'll get into why I run him in a minute, but that's why I use have the 10 Goldfish and the extra Rosenix, is so I can make him, but that's it for the monsters. Next up is spells. start off, I run 2 Pot of Acquisitiveness. The deck banishes a lot, especially the monsters, and so being able to recycle them is nice. Also, you can, if you're in like pressing need for that draw, you can shuffle back your opponent's stuff, or if you're in the ABC matchup, you can use it to help disrupt their plays with Buster. And then next up is Twin Twisters. The 2 pops is always nice, and with all of the Crystron cards having all the Crystron cards except for the tuners having plays I can do in the graveyard with them, the discard isn't really any kind of cost that I care about. And now we're to the 1-ofs for the spells. So first off, we have Regeki, clearing boards, pretty straightforward. Next, I run the Book of Moon for disruption, and it helps me deal with annoying monsters like Crystal Wing or Vanities that really can hurt the deck a lot because there's so much special summoning and monster effects. So it also helps against Majesties as well that I have to deal with, so it's just really helpful card in that regard. And then we have the 1 Foolish to get the monsters engraved for their banish effects. And then the final spell I run is Foolish Burial of Goods, because both of the Crystron trap cards have banish effects. So, and particularly Entry has a really good banish effect. And I'll go into that in a second when I get to it in the trap cards on why I want it in the graveyard. So then we're on to trap cards. So we have the 3 copies of Crystron Impact, because it lets me special summon any of my banished Crystrons. And there's some really fun combos I can do with that, which we'll get to in another video we'll be posting later, which is going to be tips and strategies for Crystrons. Then next up for trap cards, we got the 2 copies of Crystron Entry. It's really helpful for your Quarion Gandrax plays, because you can get that tuner from hand and tuner from grave to get those tuners, multiple tuners you need for Quarion Gandrax. And then Engrave, its banish effect is really good, and this card is the main reason why I play the goods. It works with Impact for its banish effect, but really the main thing I want to use it for is putting one of my copies of this Engrave so I can really use it to its fullest. And then one of the tech cards I play, King's Consonance, it negates a direct attack, and then I can banish a tuner and 1 or more non-tuners to special summon a synchro monster from an action who's level 8 or lower. And the best part is you don't have to meet the material requirements, so it makes Crystal Wing really easy, which the deck can already do pretty well on its own. But if you're kind of down and you top deck this and just kind of set it with no other cards and pass your opponent, and you got the materials for the Crystal Wing and Grave, it's really good for helping you come back. And there's some combos with it that, again, we'll get to in the later video. And then the last trap card and last card in the deck is the 1 Bottomless, which is just great for taking care of those monsters before, those troublesome monsters before they even really become a threat. So that's it for the main deck. Next up is the extra deck. So to get started, we have 2 copies of the level 4 Synchro Tuner for the archetype. If you don't know what it does, it's basically a Formula Synchron, except for it works during the battle phase as well. I only run 2 because of the deck has the potential to go into a lot of different stuff, and so I was just kind of short on extra deck space, so I ended up cutting it down to 2. And because I only run 2 of the Synchro Tuner, I only run 2 of the other Synchro, even though I go into this one far more often. I just find I only really need the 2 and 2. And if you don't know, its effect allows you, says when you synchro summon this card, you can switch all special summon monsters your opponent controls to defense mode. And so making this at the start of your opponent's battle phase is just perfect, and is one of the main stun plays for the deck. And then I run one level 6. I run the high-speed roided Kendama. I know a lot of people run the Powered Inzector, I believe it's called, but I prefer this because it can special summon itself back from grave if I control no cards, and the deck doesn't have a whole lot of field presence to begin with, so that effect's usually live. I also like the burn damage I can get, and speaking of it being able to bring itself back, the level 7 I run is the Super Heavy Samurai Stealth Ninja, which says during the standby phase, after this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can special summon it. And so it doesn't have the restriction that Kendama does, and being a Super Heavy Samurai, it attacks in defense mode, and it has the 2800 defense, so it's just really good to just sit behind if you need a wall up, and the fact that it's 2800 attacking for 2800 just makes it really solid, and that it always just keeps coming back. And then the next 3 cards are the really expensive cards for the deck, and admittedly, they aren't necessary. I either already had them or got them soon after building this deck. So I run them, but they are by no means required for the deck. And that would be the Cypherame Lord Omega for the recycle. And I also really like his last effect, which says you can target one other card in your graveyard and put them, shuffle them both back into the deck, which is great because I run some cards at lower quantities and may, during certain duels, need to use it just that one extra time. And so if my opponent does somehow get rid of my Omega, then I have it to be able to recycle those important combo pieces. And then next up is the Crystal Wing. No real explanation needed, it's Crystal Wing. And then we have my Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. This card, kind of older, newer players might not know about it, since how it, not a whole lot of decks play it right now. But when it's synchro summoned, you can target, or it doesn't target, sorry. When it's synchro summoned, you can banish up to 1 card from the hand, field, and graveyard. And it doesn't target, which is one of the best parts of it. So it's really good for getting rid of, again, those troublesome cards. Unfortunately, it cannot get rid of Crystal Wing, no matter how much I want it to. And as you can see, it's the pretty ulti. Then next up for level 9s is the Vermilion Dragon Mech, which I personally really like because it's a generic 9 that I can go into off a Crystron effect, which is really rare for me to do, but it is there as an option if I need it. And the fact that I can banish a tuner from grave to pop a card is really helpful, especially because if I've used my effect veiler, I can then, and it's not going to do anything for me in graveyard, I can then banish it to use it as removal. And so it kind of just extends certain plays. And then I run 1 copy of Quarion Gandrax, even though it's the boss monster. I don't summon as much as I probably should. And honestly, if I'm making this more than once, I'm probably, if I'm in a situation where I can make this more than once, I'm probably going to win the duel anyway, so I don't feel like it needs to be ran at more than 1. And then for the last synchro, I run 1 copy of the Crystron Phoenix. It's a little bit harder to summon than Quarion Gandrax, and because I only run 2 of each of the materials to make it, I just don't feel like I can run it any more comfortably. So then lastly, we have the 3 Xyz monsters I play. First off, we have the Heavy Armor Train Iron Wolf that I mentioned before. If you don't know what it does, you can detach 1 and select 1 machine-type monster you control, it can attack directly this turn, but it's the only monster that can attack this turn. So with it, I can detach one and then let Quarion Gamedrax attack directly. And just in general, it's really nice to help secure games. If I got my opponent low, but then they start building up a board again, I can just use this to swing past their monsters and finish off games. And then the last two is just the Nova Infinity, as I mentioned before, for the Sulfafnir. And I can use the Amatrix to make it. That's it for the Crystron deck. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier, we will be doing a tips and strategy guide for Crystrons, because I didn't want, if I really went through and explained everything, this would be a really long deck profile, and I wanted to keep it short for you guys. So that'll be it. Stay tuned. We'll have the tips and tricks later. That's it.
All right, thank you, Michael. As always, like, comment on the video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content. And as always, this is Jay Corbett, signing out.